Greetings, listeners, and welcome to The Spiritual Experience, a show where we share stories of life, love, and redemption for all of humanity on Earth. So sit back and enjoy. Try to identify with the speakers and not compare. Don't forget to subscribe on all podcast platforms. I'm your host, Jay Lewis, and here we go. Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back. Spiritual Experience, you know the deal. Please get out there, like and subscribe us on all podcast platforms. Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever. Anyway, got a special guest here today. Our first repeat offender. We had such a good time last time we spoke. He had just celebrated his first year, and we wanted to get him right back on the show a year later to give us an update because obviously, well, not obvious to you guys, but it's a little bit, it's easier to get 1 year than it is to stick around for two in a lot of ways once some of the desperation rubs off. So he's doing a lot of great things, creatively that we're going to get into, and he's a dear friend of mine, and I love him greatly. Everybody say hello to Danny. Danny, say what's up.
Hey, what's up? How you doing? It's Danny from Brooklyn, New York.
Nice. So, Danny, second year, huh?
Yeah.
What's the deal? What do you got going on?
This year's been rough. You know, there's a lot of stuff that's going on. You know, I've lost friends. I've lost connections. You know, it's just difficult, you know? Like, a lot of the stuff that I've been going through is, like, just shit I don't want to deal with, you know? Just like... a friend of mine died of prostate cancer.
Oh, man. Sorry to hear that.
And then later, and the craziest shit was nobody knew he had prostate cancer. He didn't tell anybody.
How did that make you feel? When, like, in the sense of that, okay, so, like, yeah, first year of recovery, even for me, you know, you're just kind of dusting yourself off. But then if you, around your second, third year, that's why they always say it takes 5 years to get your marbles back. So now you're like experiencing life like unadulterated, you know, where it's just like this is your, like a quote unquote, like a first. So like you have somebody close to you that was sick and didn't let anybody know for how long? Like, how did you guys find out?
So we found out when he died that he had prostate cancer, and he was an ex-cop, and he kept very to himself.
Right.
And he.
What was your relationship with him?
I met him through my cycling club, Major Taylor Iron Riders, and I knew him for 15 years. You know.
No way.
And it's just like, you know somebody for that long, and you know that they keep things to themselves, but you would think that they would at least tell someone about it so that someone knows.
Yeah.
But nobody knew. Then he died.
How did you deal with I don't like to use the word shock, but like the surprise of that, like as a sober man? Like first time, really.
As a sober man, I dealt with it badly. I went back to some old behaviors that I try really hard not to do, and that the behavior I'm talking about is self-harm. Right. And yeah.
It's almost like, did you feel like betrayal?
Not betrayal. I just felt like this great sense of loss. This person I highly respected.
Right.
You know, this man taught me everything I know about fixing bicycles.
Oh, man.
And I'm like a super huge cyclist. I'm a 350-pound guy, but...
You get on that bike, you get busy.
Yeah. And, you know, it's just like I'm like the odd cyclist because I'm such a big guy, but at the same time, it's just like when I was coming up, I was 14 when I joined the club, and I didn't know anything about bicycle maintenance, and I didn't have any money to, spend on bicycle maintenance.
That stuff can get pretty expensive, no?
That stuff can get very expensive, you know. And if something needs to be replaced or something needs to be ordered,
Nothing is $10.
nothing is $10. Nothing is $20.
Oh, man.
We're talking about spending, thousands of dollars on, serious repairs if you really need them.
Right.
And, ordering new parts and all that jazz.
And he was like a mentor for you in that way, where he took you under his wing?
Yeah, and he was like a mentor to me, and, he took me under his wing, and we would meet up in Prospect Park and go chill on the benches on the, south side.
Where, like, the tennis courts are and that kind of
Yeah.
stuff? Yeah, okay.
And we would chill on the benches, and each time I came, he would show me something new, like how to adjust the derailleurs, how to wrap the bar tape around the handlebars, all that jazz, And so when he died, it was kind of shocking because this guy was someone who just never, he was so healthy. He was so fit.
Yeah, he's a cyclist.
Yeah. He must weigh like a 170 or something.
Right.
And
he looked like prime time. Like he was, yeah.
And he was he wasn't a young guy when he died. He was 68. But if you saw him, you would think, oh, this guy looks like he's 50. And so, like, it was a shock. And, dealing with those emotions in sobriety is always hard. And
Yeah, especially when you make that decision that you don't have alcohol and drugs to numb you through it. Because you're not, so now it's just, you're like sober and this is like real life.
yeah.
So what did you learn about yourself? Did you say, okay, well, I guess I thought I had my triggers under control, and then this comes out of nowhere, and then you find out like, okay, well, I'm not going to run to the fucking heroin spot, but here I am.
My arm looks like I got tortured by a Saudi Arabian torture team.
Yeah.
And, it looks like a battlefield. But, self-harm doesn't do it for me.
Yeah.
It's just an old habit, from depression.
Right. So how did you ask for help when that was going on? Or how long was it going on?
I didn't ask for help, but I cried. I'm not afraid to say that I cried. I wept. I might be a masculine guy, but I cried because that's all I could do.
Right.
You can't bring somebody back from the dead. And I went to the service and everything, and because he was a cop, he had the whole, the trumpet with the taps and all that shit.
That's very emotional stuff.
Yeah. And I just couldn't sit through it, so I left early. Got in a car with some friends. They took me home. But, just dealing with that in the beginning of the year was rough.
What happened next?
Next on the list. So I was, at that point, I was still receiving ECT treatment.
Tell everyone what that is again, please.
Electroconvulsive therapy treatment.
Right. And it works for you.
Yeah, it works.
It's great.
You know, it's portrayed crazily in the movies, but for me, I forced myself to do it, even though, like, I've had some scares with it. Like, it works for me, so I'm not gonna put it to the side and be like, oh no, I'm not gonna do it just because they fucked up my anesthesia one time, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, because overall you've had a very positive experience.
Yeah, so my ECT period ended June 29th over the summer, last summer. And I was happy about that because I really didn't want to go, you know, every month and a half until September or October.
Right.
And then disaster struck. My meds weren't working for me. And this point I want to talk about more because I find that in a lot of the meetings that I've been going to in AA, you know, in all the literature it says psychologists and psychiatrists are
our friends.
Yeah.
Because they are.
And we have to understand about ourselves that we are sick people. You know, we are the problem.
Yeah, alcoholics, the drinking is a solution. It is not the problem.
Yeah.
Right. So, you know, once you stop drinking, then you find out who you are, and you have to deal with that.
Yeah, and so like I'm medicated up to my eyeballs in medication. I take, I don't know, 15 different medications every night.
Right.
And, you know, that's just because I had a revelation this year, and I learned that I have schizoaffective bipolar type disorder.
What is that?
So schizoaffective bipolar type is you have a mood disorder with some elements of schizophrenia. So you might have a delusion, or you might have paranoia, or you might hear voices.
Right, and paranoia meaning like unjustified, not like situational.
Like just if you go out for a walk and you think if you turn a corner you're gonna have to murder somebody or some stupid shit like that, you know?
Right.
Like just unjustifiable paranoia that for no reason at all.
And this was diagnosed this past year?
Yeah.
This is something. Do you think was underneath all of those? What is this? Last time the hand sanitizer, it was underneath all of that stuff that you were medicating.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's been what I realized was that it's been going on for like 7 years.
Right. Yeah.
Back to like 2015. So like.
But you're unable to even look at that stuff while you're actively drinking and drugging.
Yeah, you can't see that stuff when you're active out in the world, drinking, drugging, whatever else you're doing.
Right. So then you get sober, then you're like, okay, this is I'm in my second year, and more is being revealed.
Yeah, and the crazy shit is that I had a realization. That's the only way I found out that this was, you know, that this delusion was happening. That I was See, my delusion was that I thought I was getting orders from the government, from a government agency to, you know, I guess, spy on other people.
Right.
But I just thought that was normal.
Yeah.
I thought that was the normal life, you know? And that combined with the paranoia, they kind of feed off of each other.
Right.
So it makes it more real. It makes it more like this is the world you're living in.
So how did you come to the realization that it was like fiction?
I was supposed to go to a physical therapy appointment in August. I broke my my right humerus in the greater tuberosity.
Yeah, I remember that was bad.
And
that was a bike, right? You fell off your bike?
yeah, I crashed my bike. And then I couldn't move my arm. But my first thought was, are my sunglasses okay?
I love it. How am I looking? That's funny.
And, you know,
So you were going to physical therapy?
so I had scheduled an appointment for physical therapy, and what's it called? These I went down the stairs, I got ready, shoes on, everything. I'm chilling. I go downstairs, and poof. I walk out the door, and I'm outside. I want to check what time it is to make sure I got enough time, you know, because I gave myself like an hour to get there,
Where is it at?
like West 4th Street.
Oh, so that's not bad. Especially from where you live.
Yeah. And I get to the outside and I look at my watch. The appointment is at 2:15. When I got down the stairs, it was 1 o'clock, and I was about to leave. And I walk outside, and it's 2 o'clock. And I'm like, what just happened?
Right.
So I'm just like going through my mind, you know, trying to figure out, replay whatever happened. And I was able to go back and realize that I was having a delusion, which seems crazy, but
No, like you lost time.
yeah. And then, you know,
How did that make you feel? When you realized it, like, holy shit.
I was scared. There's
Did it tell you, I've been doing this this has been happening periodically for a while and now I'm just recognizing it? Or did you feel like, this was my first time?
if I could now that I was able to see what I was doing,
Right.
I spent like 2 hours going back through my memories, trying to find out, you know, how long has this been going on.
Right. Yeah, well, you say, let me look back and see, now that I know what this thing is, how many other times I thought this happened.
Yeah, and I went back all the way to 2015 and realized that 2015 was where this whole started. Because I wasn't paranoid before 2015. I wasn't, you know, like, I weaponed up in 2015 and then moved to Colorado, came back, you know, just a lot of stupid shit.
Right.
But the realization, you can't just tell anybody. You know, it's like, and because I was sober, And because I was able to see what was going on, it's extremely difficult to explain this to other people.
Right.
Because people who know you for a long time, they have this image of you in their head. And you tell them that for 7 years, you've been living in this delusion that you're working for the government. It's like, on a certain level, it's just like people don't know what to believe.
Right.
So,
what about your parents?
They didn't know what to say. They didn't know what to believe. Because as soon as I said that, all of my past that I had told them about, I was a drug dealer, I was a drug trafficker, When I was a drug trafficker, this was back in high school. I trafficked drugs. I did some really messed up things. Things I'm not going to say right now.
Yeah, but then, so what? Do you think they called all of that into question? Or they were like...
They did.
Yeah.
All of that. When I was a drug dealer in college, they called that into question because how am I supposed to believe your history if what you're telling me is that you're delusional?
Right. Meanwhile, you're just asking for help.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, so what happens next?
So it took some time, and the fall semester, I ended up taking off because, or better yet, I went back to school last year.
Right.
In the spring.
What were you going to study?
I'm just doing liberal arts to finish my. I got like 45, 48 credits, and I just need a couple more to get out of community college.
Yeah, you're on your way. It's good stuff.
Yeah, and so I had planned to take certain classes in the fall, but a lot of crazy stuff happened in August. My anti-anxiety medication stopped working. And I will say this. I do take benzodiazepines to manage my anxiety. And the reason that I say that is because there's a whole controversy about taking anti-anxiety medication like that and being sober. And I'd just like to say that if a doctor prescribes you, if you're an addict and you say, downers were my thing, don't prescribe me that, and you get prescribed that's its own problem. If you are an addict and, you feel like you're going to abuse anything and everything, that's its own problem. But this was one medication I never abused before, and it actually helps me with my life. And so that creates its own complicated sphere. But with the delusions, with everything, back in August, I had this crazy thing happen. My anti-anxiety medication stopped working. My doctor was like, well, because you get a lot of panic attacks, you might have to go away to a detox for like a month because you can't just stop these medications.
Yeah, not at all. The withdrawal is severe.
So you can't just stop these medications. And it got to a point where I was so... I'll just give you an example. When most people have some anxiety going on, most people's anxiety on a scale of 0 to 10 is somewhere between 0 and 2.
And most of the time it's like situational.
Yeah.
Right? That it's not, it's like, listen, you have, look, if you have, you know, these kind of issues, these, let's just say, right? Teenage kid, the kid's got SATs coming up, they've been flunking in school, their fucking mom is all over them. It's like you would be abnormal to not have any anxiety in that situation.
Yeah.
And even then, it's like, in comparison to clinical anxiety, which is like, regardless of what's going on, it's a hummingbird trapped in your fucking brain flying around.
Yeah, so it's more like that for me.
Right.
My basically baseline anxiety level is about a 5 out of 10. So already we're talking about high levels of anxiety. And then if you add in situational anxiety, that 5 goes from 5 to, 7.
Right.
And then, if things are really bad, it goes to 10 and I start having panic attacks. So, I have to maneuver a lot of things about my life to,
keep that stuff at bay.
Yeah.
Right.
And the medication helps, but it doesn't do everything. It's not like I'm relying on it to
right.
do
It's not like a magic pill. Like, oh.
Yeah.
Right. So the stuff stops working?
So it stopped working. We tried to figure out how to stabilize it. We finally found a concoction to stabilize it. Mind you, I take like 15 different medications on a regular basis.
Right.
And so we stabilize it. I moved throughout the year. And once we stabilized it, I started having everything was okay, I just needed to figure out what I was going to do with my time because I dropped all my courses because I thought this was going to be like I was going away to detox.
Right. But were you grateful that it was less severe than you anticipated?
Oh, yeah.
It's got to be a nice feeling. Even though, all right, so how to fill up free time can be a double-edged sword, but in your brain, you were taking, a sober step in the sense of, oh, I'm going to have to drop these courses because I know the probability of ABC is coming, and it's, stupid to even fucking try.
Yeah.
Right. That's sober thinking, 100% 101 instead of fuck it, we'll see what happens. You're actually being responsible.
Yeah, and I wasn't the only person advocating for, dropping my courses, but I thought legitimately that if I had to go to detox,
then that's what you got to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you don't have to go to detox, but now you have a free time on your hands. What's going on?
Well, I go to this place called Fountain House. It's a wonderful organization for people with mental illness.
It's in the city, right?
Yeah, it's 425 West 47th Street between 9th and 10th.
Nice.
And it's a clubhouse for people who have mental illness, and you work in a unit, and you can just chill there all day, or you could find people to interact with or whatever, and it's good. They have a music room, they have a gym, they have we're talking about a place that gets funds from the government for they spend $40 million a year on keeping that place open.
That's great. Yeah, because some people they struggle.
Yeah, and they can help. They can help you with housing. They can help you find a job. They can help you in a lot of ways. So it's very beneficial. But I found that I would go there and I wasn't getting enough out of it, and but then I realized that in my second year of sobriety, I had so many spiritual experiences.
Yeah.
Like just the tiniest little thing, like the tiniest little thing, like going to a meeting and feeling what the person was saying, and just like that's a spiritual experience right there. Or
Yeah, well, you have that level of identification, but on a soul level.
Yeah.
Not just oh yeah, I drank there too. No, you're having that other stuff. Yeah.
But I found myself having spiritual experiences outside of AA, outside of
For the first time.
yeah,
Nice.
and I can't describe to you what they felt like.
Well, do you remember what was going on with any of them?
One of them was with you, actually, when I spoke as a detox.
Oh yeah.
To me, that was.
That was magic that day.
Yeah, I felt so humble. It is a humbling experience to talk to a group of people who are trying to pull their lives together and just working so hard to and they have a day or they have a week, and they're trying to put things together.
And they're scared.
Yeah.
And rightfully so, because they don't know that you can get a year, right? And then here you are, and they're like, yo, I got a fucking year.
You see,
to give that hope to somebody is
I got a card at my first anniversary. It said, you got your year. Now the work begins.
Right. Sounds like that was very true for you.
Yeah. And I found a good sponsor. I'm very much, opposed to the AA standard of men with the men, women with the women, because I don't think that it's always appropriate.
Right.
I don't think that having two guys work together is always beneficial. So I got in my first year I went through 5 sponsors, and I got to step 3 with 5 sponsors.
Right.
And with my current sponsor, I'm on step 4 now.
That's the inventory.
Yeah.
What are you finding out?
Not really finding out much, but I did find out. Interestingly enough, I came clean to my brother. We were I don't know, like last week. I have a lot of food allergies and all types of shit. So, I ate something that was closing my throat. So, I got the EpiPen. I jammed it in my leg.
Right.
And they tell you to go to the hospital because there's a possibility you could have a heart attack. But I didn't want to pay for an ambulance ride, and I felt like I would just be fine if somebody watched me for like an hour.
Right.
So I called my brother. I was like, hey, can you come upstairs? And, he came upstairs and he looked after me. It was like 12. It was like midnight. And, he looked out for me, but he had no idea. Like, he doesn't understand this shit.
Right.
He doesn't. A lot of people in my family, they don't understand my mental illness. They don't understand, like, a lot of the things I go through, like panic attacks and horrible anxiety.
Right. How old is your brother?
He's 34. 34.
Okay.
And he's married, and his wife was downstairs, and he usually stays up late. He's a musician. And he came upstairs, and I told him I had, it was the wrong time to be having this kind of conversation because I couldn't feel my EpiPen is basically adrenaline.
Right.
So your adrenaline shoots through the roof. So it opens up your airways and all that shit.
Right.
So you're kind of like out of it to a certain extent.
Right.
And you want to just try to calm down as much as possible. And my brother was, had some things on his mind that he wanted to express. And I don't think that was necessarily the right time to express things, considering that I could barely feel my eyes.
Right.
My heart was pounding and all this stuff, and I was afraid I was going to have a heart attack. And it just slipped out. And I probably shouldn't have said this. But I told him, I was like, I got a lot of resentments towards you. And I know that you have a lot of resentments towards me. And he said, no, I don't have any resentments towards you. And, when you go through the fourth step, you have to look up the definitions of what a resentment is.
Yeah.
It's not just like,
I'm angry. Yeah.
It's not
that.
No, it's not that. Resenting somebody is, goes along with those people, places, and things, that you really have to be on top of. You have to see your part in it. And my part is that I have these resentments, even though some of them may not be true, some of them may be true, like.
A lot of times, like, resentments they come from our perception of what is going on. And our perception is rarely ever accurate. So that's what Danny's talking about when he's saying, like, whether the resentment is real or not. Because, like, he could take something, or anybody could take something the wrong way, and then anytime you think about that interaction or you're around that guy, you are re-feeling the time that fucking, this guy didn't return your phone call or whatever, when it's really like, oh no, his fucking phone was dead or something, that you don't have all the information. Yeah. And your side of the street is that you're holding on to something with only half of the fucking data, but it's burning you. Like you get you're hurting yourself.
And these were, everybody has resentments.
Of course.
And,
once you understand what they are, you say, it's impossible for them to not have them.
But I brought up, it was a mistake for me to bring that up.
Mm-hmm.
I was also not feeling myself, so whatever, but I brought that up to him, and he's like, I don't have any resentments against you. I just want to see you doing better. And when I was talking with him, I just wanted to say, Dad, I wish you could walk in my shoes. I wish you could walk in my shoes so badly. Because then you get it. I wouldn't have to explain it anymore.
Right.
You get what it is to have this mental illness. You get what it is to be in sobriety. You get what it is to be clean,
And the work that it takes. But it's almost like similar to what we were talking about before we started recording about it was, you're supposed to give back to the hood. We're talking about Nipsey Hussle. That's your job. What I'm saying? Just almost like, okay, now once you understand that you have this condition, it's your job. You're supposed to stay sober. But it ain't easy.
Not at all.
The temptation of leaving this earth because of what's going on in life is there. Whether it's just figuratively speaking or in reality. It's there because the thing is with people in recovery is that you can't handle life sober. It's hard, and hard enough that you're like, okay, well, I'll drink, I'll drug, I'll go eat, or I'll get addicted to sex, or I'll self-harm, or I'll do whatever it is because I can't on my own handle the moment. Whatever those moments are, whether they be good or bad. And that's why, when we have other people around us and you do this step work and you find out that, okay, well, listen, things are never as good as I believe them or never as bad as I believe them. But I have to, what we were talking, when you were talking about the humility of going and sharing and helping those people, you're just when you go into that setting, you're in real life in that moment. And when I'm there or any other places, I'm like, bro, what am I complaining about? And that doesn't minimize, it doesn't brush away life's difficulties, but it helps keep them right size because my brain will take them on the fucking cyclone. And it's everything is insurmountable,
Yeah. And that comes back to resentments and, you start to resent people for not understanding. But the reality is that unless you've been in those shoes...
It's not possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost not even oh, it's impossible. It's literally impossible. Then you have to start to learn to have empathy for them. Especially if they're not, guys got to love you to come upstairs at 12 at night because you banged yourself with an EpiPen.
Yeah, I mean, I don't doubt his love for me at all.
Sure.
But, I came to believe in my first year of sobriety that, and it grew in my second year, that I actually do have a life beyond my wildest dreams. And it's not material things. It's not, sexual desires. It's not money.
It's not external.
Yeah. It's spiritual.
Yeah.
I have a life beyond my wildest dreams because of my spiritual experiences, my belief in God, the things that I have to do to keep myself moving forward day by day. Not this week, not next week, but these 24 hours, and these 24 hours only. And it's just like, I have what nobody else knows. Nobody else in my family understands that.
Right.
So it's really hard to explain to people. People in my family, they ask me, "Why don't you have a job? Why aren't you going to school and working?" And I'm just like, because it has to do with my mental illness. Clearly, you don't understand this, this, that, and the third. And my mental illness is a big problem in my life. And I've learned to accept it. And the craziest thing is, not only have I learned to accept it, but I've learned to give up things that, random things. Like, I'll be a big guy forever. If I wasn't on these medications, I'd lose weight like crazy.
Right.
And I'll be a big guy forever. My hands are totally fucked. They shake like crazy. I have trouble handwriting. I have trouble typing. I record my classes. I go to Kingsborough. I record my classes on a recording device and then download them onto my computer after I get out of class. My stress tolerance is super low. So when I reach a certain level, I have basically one of two things can happen. I'll either be fine or I'll have an episode. And I don't want to end up back in the hospital, so I keep things calmed down,
Yeah, you're learning how to run your own race.
Yeah.
Which is shocking because when you're talking about your hands and the other stuff, is because you're a super creative guy. Like your paintings are like really, they're beautiful, and this creative side of you. How is that blossomed more in your second year?
Well, I mean, like,
because you paint, you make music, you're super expressive in that way.
Yeah, like,
and it's very like deliberate. Like your paintings are not like doo doo doo. Like no, it's very deliberate form of expression.
So I'm a poet, and I know how to turn poetry into either spoken word or into rhymes, beats, and life, But what's it called? I just, with my art, I'm at You can find me on Instagram at Daniel underscore LITWACK underscore art.
And we'll put the links to everything in the show notes too, yeah.
But my art, I'm an abstract artist, so it's almost impossible for me to fuck that up, you know?
Right. Is that on purpose, or is that just the way that you view, like when you start painting, you're like, oh, I'm going to make this, or you're just like, we're going to freestyle and see where, and this is where we're going?
Usually I have an idea, you know? And a friend of mine, Tucker, who works for Montana Cans, Montana Spray Paint, sent me a bunch of supplies for Christmas. So like $300 worth of supplies for free.
Nice.
And I was just like, wow, now I got paint markers and spray paint and all this stuff to work with, and you know, I can really get down to like what I want to do, you know.
Right.
So I steal the wet paint signs from the subway. I cut out the letters and I make them stencils. You know, that's, you know, and that's one aspect of my art. But I'm really just an abstract artist, you know, because I can't do fine detail.
Right.
I can't do, you know, very fine detail because my hands shake too much. And as for my music, you know, I'm a producer. You know, I produce electronic music. I produce, you know, hip hop beats and all that stuff. But my current project is a rap project. I'm supposed to be coming out with an album fairly soon.
What is it like for you when you're creating that stuff? Like, where are you mentally when all of that is going on?
Which aspect? Which stuff?
Like let's say like when you're doing the music. Are you like zeroed in on the music, or are you just like flowing, letting it happen?
So I write the lyrics before I find the beat. And the reason for that is that I want to say something, you know? Like, this is the start to one of my spoken word poetry things, but it's also the start to one of my songs on SoundCloud. The day's brightness, fluidity changing from dark to lightness, captivates my mind's eye like the artist in me, knowing his days might close like his eyes.
Yeah.
So, like, there's that aspect.
Are you like almost like looking inside yourself and like closing your eyes and spitting out what you see?
Basically, yeah.
Because it's like really deep, like, you know, the days may close like his eyes. That's real fucking shit. That's not like, oh yeah, no. But that's what I mean, is like your art, your way of like letting people see through your own lens what you see.
Well, not just that. It's like it's a complete outlet, though.
Yeah.
Like, yes, it is letting people see what I see.
But it's also letting that stuff out, right?
Yeah, it's like you got stress, you know? What better way to let out stress than you take a piece of canvas, or you got pre-stretched canvases, and you just paint a line, and then you paint another line in a different color, and then you paint another line, and then you go, then you change directions, and you're mixing and mashing colors, and it's bright and it's vibrant, and you're doing it over a bright or a vibrant background, and it's in, it's out, like it's representative of emotions, and it's just out on the table for everyone to see. They might not see what you see, but they're gonna see. It's gonna elicit something within them, because art is supposed to elicit an emotion in the viewer.
Right. So it's like you as the artist, you just put it out there and it means something different to everybody else. Do you sometimes not even want to tell people what it was, so that way you don't like adulterate their interpretation? Do you like, I'm not going to say anything. Let them think however they want because it's special to them?
Well, I mean, like, when I post on Instagram, like, I might post on an idea that I was thinking about.
Right.
And, have a whole paragraph based on that idea.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's just like...
But that's also part of the art, too, when I read that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, this guy's a deep motherfucker, man.
Yeah, that is part of the art, but at the same time, like, like the one I gave you.
Yeah.
It's called Serenity Prayer. And that's because it has the Serenity Prayer smack in the middle in pink.
Yeah, it's fucking dope.
And, it's just like you feel something. It evokes something within you,
Yeah, like I love that kind of stuff, because it's especially like the Serenity Prayer, because it's actually it's helping me, because it gives me instructions. What do I need to do in this moment? I need to accept the things I cannot change. The courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom to know the difference part is the whole soup. It's the hardest part, and that's what I need everybody's help, because I think sometimes I can change everybody, or I can change the world, or I can do this, or I can, like you're saying, how could your brother possibly understand? And then, until you go through this process, with the steps, and you're doing all this stuff, you're coming to realization that, like, not only he, but many people will never really understand what it's like to walk in your shoes. And they're not going to have to understand for you to let go of that resentment, you know?
And I think on that point, the craziest thing to me is that, there... It doesn't matter. It really doesn't. I mean, it matters to me because it's such a big portion of my life.
Right.
Like, I've had to give up so much just to remain alive. And that's why it matters to me so much. But at the same time, it's meaningless to other people. They don't know the struggle. They don't know this, that, and the third. And it's hard. I mean, you understand my position from experiencing your own life, but it's hard to explain to people whose only issue is addiction or alcoholism. It's hard to explain that basically I got a dual diagnosis. I'm an addict and an alcoholic, and someone with, schizoaffective bipolar type.
Right.
So, like, they have meetings. It's called double trouble meetings, but, you know, like, AA just works better.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, inside, we were talking about this in the car, and also a little bit here, but inside the rooms, like, to me, I don't think things are very controversial with people who have actual, like, recovery. When people who are just sober and they don't have any experience, then to them maybe they have controversy as far as, if somebody's on medication, they're not sober, or somebody's on Suboxone, they're not sober, or all these kind of judgments, because they have yet to actually get to a place in their life, forget about in recovery, just in their life where they surrender their judgment.
Yeah.
When, like, people who have real, like, an example is like, what I always, what I think about is like, there should be a lot more humility from people, especially if you have young fucking kids, because you don't even know what those kids are going to do to you. So you should shut the fuck up. And you know what I'm saying? So it's like life will humble you. And those people who have not, the people with those kinds of assertions about mental health in recovery rooms or whatever, they should stick to their own experience. Like, I personally, like, look, I believe 1,000,000% in medication as an option. I don't believe that medication is the only option. I believe that medication has to be like, okay, just for me, is that like, okay, what, like the Serenity Prayer, what can I do that's in my control?
Of course.
And then while doing that or exhausting doing that, also if there's a chemical imbalance, then I need to have medication, and that's what it's there for. Instead of like, you can easily see, like, especially like a young person, let's say somebody's like 13 or 14, and maybe they can't sit still, or maybe the teacher's a shitty fucking teacher and doesn't have patience with them and sends them to the school psychologist. And the school psychologist is like, your kid is fucking bored in school and doesn't know how to pay attention. It's like, no, because he hasn't found the part of the curriculum or school or life or whatever that he enjoys. Because once he finds that, or she or they find that, then all of a sudden they can sit down and pay attention. So it's not really that they can't pay attention. It's just that, they don't care about the Civil War.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, to ask an 11 or 12-year-old kid to sit there for an hour and learn about fucking y equals mx plus b, you're asking a fucking lot, But that doesn't mean that kid needs to be fucking medicated, or what? Like, it can't be the first stop,
Yeah.
And so the thing is, like, it's all, I have this thing that I've been living on, like, it's all on the menu, all of it. And like, if you're in recovery, like, you cannot, some of these things, like we learned here today, there was no way you were able to find out these things about yourself while slugging down 17 beers and blasting fucking cocaine. Like, it's not possible. All of that needs to be stripped away. And then where you are right now, with the limitations that you placed, let's just say, on yourself now, like one of them maybe that you said out loud, that I'm going to be a big guy forever. Like, you just made it through like your second year of recovery. So you don't even know by your 6th year, or like if you stay on this, the path is of self-improvement. It's not of like, okay, well, this is how I'm going to be and this is how the sandwich is made. It's like each year you're going to grow and be like, oh no, so I have to, it's not that I can't do this. I have to figure out a way that works for me, that I can do these things, but has to be on my time, because I have shaky hands, or I have this, I have that, and all of that kind of stuff. Like, if you would have asked yourself, a year, if you would have asked yourself a day before you even got here that you would even get 2 years, you'd have been like, fucking no way. It's impossible. I'm a drug addict. I'm an alcoholic, and I'm going to be like that. This is how I am. And here we are. You got fucking good music. You get your fucking paintings bumping. You know, you're going to school. You're fucking back. You know what I'm saying? You broke your arm. You're back up. You're going to get on your bike. You went through a loss, all without picking up.
Yeah. And
that has to be, at minimum, that's enough. But that in itself is a fucking miracle for people like us.
Oh, of course. But like we were talking about in the car, you know, alcohol is but a symptom.
Oh, yeah.
It's the people, and this relates directly to what you were saying about, you know, alcoholics and, you know, drug addicts not going for the medical field as much, you know. It's the people who need to understand better that AA is not the only. Better yet, AA does not have a monopoly on recovery.
Oh, that is it says that in the literature also. Yeah, it's not the only way. And it's the program is perfect. The people are not perfect.
Very much so.
But the program is all about, like, these are suggestions. We must do this, but you can do this. And it's okay. And anybody can, especially if you think about that, like, that's like in the 1930s. You know, like if the big book is all that we needed, that's all that we would have. But every few years they add more literature. Came to Believe, the fucking 12 and 12, and the 24-hour book, like, because that
living sober.
Right, living sober. So that's what I mean. So it's just like as much experience allows people to evolve, and it's not possible to evolve while taking drugs and drinking every day. So that, like you said, that's the symptom. We have to stop that, like, in order to even, for the other stuff to even be possible.
But, yeah, but I also think that I've met a lot of people with significant time, like more than you.
It's okay.
You got significant time.
I don't get offended. I'm happy they're sober.
Like 32, 40 years, you know. Like, what are you're on 19?
Yeah, I'm inside of 20, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So 19 and like 6 months.
Nice. And so they got 32, 40 years, you know. And the way they act is like they're entitled to shit.
Yeah.
Like they're like, I'm an old head, or, you know, I'm
an old timer.
I'm an old timer. I've been coming around for 40 years. You know, you can't tell me anything I don't know already.
Right.
And then when you tell them something that they don't know, they're just like, fuck you.
Yeah, they get offended. Because the thing is, it's like, okay, the main thing in my life and other people that I try to associate with is that, like, what are you doing with your time? You could have 40 years and not have done anything.
Yeah, and
except for just not drink and pick up for 40 years, which, if that's all you want to do, then okay. But you might not have evolved as a person.
Yeah, and the evolution of a person is the evolution of sobriety. But if you just don't pick up for 40 years and there's no evolution, then are you really sober?
Oh, you're a dry motherfucker, man. You're fucking frosted flake. It says it in the book. It says, like, what are you going to be like? It says, like, the old man on the beach complaining about the state of the world, the bleeding deacons. That's what they call them, because that's what they are. And those are the ones that are just like, don't you dare change the preamble to fellowship of people instead of men and women. I'm like, bro, shut the fuck up. Like, you know, so, but it's good. I mean, listen, and the best part is for us is that they're allowed to. You know, they're allowed to, you can sit there and eat those cookies with us, and you can put $1 in the basket, and it's all going to be okay, you know? And that's the thing. It's like, it's very, the rooms are like, they're welcoming in that way. And the thing is, like, if you're going to meetings, nobody's forcing anybody to go to any kind of meeting. So, like, there are places where you can talk about drugs. There's places where they don't want you to. Like, every meeting is autonomous. And because we are very fortunate that we're in New York City, there's like thousands of meetings a week. You can go wherever you want. You don't have to stay there if you don't like those people,
I don't know if there's thousands yet.
Yeah, it's a lot.
It's coming back.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. Danny, it was great hanging out with you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we're going to put all the links to his Instagram and the other stuff in the show notes. We'll dig up maybe one of his tracks and play it on the outro for you guys. But Spiritual Experience, again, you find us on Apple, Spotify, Google, all podcast platforms. And we'll see you guys on the flip side. Peace.
Peace. I flow through verses and miles. Call me king, you'll be walking away MIA. But when the kingdom reigns light on the earth, you'll be disturbed. I'm as real as it gets, one love, I'm determined. I'm not a man of my people, I'm a man of the people. You pay for albums to show you drugs in that life, but I'm not God, I paid my price. I'm just like you, parts of me are not so nice. I'm harder than hard, but that's from battling demons one slice at a time. They call that thread in the needle, which calls me back to the days when I was begging and pleading for someone to save my life. Little did I know that it was God who would carry me out of the darkness and into the light. With coke in my nose and a belly full of pills, I overdosed 15 whole times. But it makes me ill to think back those days. But my life got better with God by my side. I ain't no better than you, I'm a one-man crew. Fuck it, I'ma do what I gotta do to get through to the other side. Not a person on this earth gonna put me to the side. I ain't no better than you, I'm a one-man crew. Fuck it, I'ma do what I gotta do to get through to the other side. Not a person on this earth gonna put me to the side. I moved weight back in the old days. For the amount I moved, I could've got locked up for 4 lifetimes. I was young and not thinking that in the end is a cost to doing business. And with that, I suffered with post-traumatic, doing shit that no 16-year-old kid should be doing, get caught up in static. His fingers in my hands and in a bag they went. Explicitly explicit materials cost doing business. Visions of blood-soaked shirts, and in the end it was my craft. But I stepped out of the business and turned my craft into light. To this day I walk in light on the righteous path, educating all those who wish to be taught lessons. From my own life this comes in sessions. I ain't no better than you, I'm a one-man crew. Fuck it, I'ma do what I gotta do to get through to the other side. Not a person on earth gonna put me to the side. I ain't no better than you, I'm a one-man crew. Fuck it, I'ma do what I gotta do to get through to the other side. Not a person on earth gonna put me to the side. I ain't no better than you, I'm a one-man crew. Fuck it, I'ma do what I gotta do to get through to the other side. Not a person on earth gonna put me to the side.